Go wherever you want. Hello, everybody. This is Empty Turtle. I'm here with Dr. David Jubb. This is Jubb Talk. Today we're talking about honesty versus dishonesty. Dr. Jubb, say hello to everyone.
Oh, I think it's a great day, and you're listening into shows. Could be in a bit of a sequence. It's amazing, but bond. It's like you think of people's word. It's word, I guess. We're using words. Could word be our bond? That's a question. Like, if love is in a bottle, I mean, is it word? But like, word is. What about conduct and decor? Because like a lot of words are sort of heady, sort of thing.
Let's see. Well, I think we should do something where we put love in a bottle. We can make a lot of money. We call a bottle honesty.
If you put love in a bottle...
And the tagline's love in a bottle.
Okay, so iron is supposed to be there in the body already.
Really?
Yeah, so you might put a little bit of slight nitrous oxide there. That's one thing, because that's going to open up the blood vessels small. But then if you're spraying something, probably you'd want to have acetylcholine, right? Because that's the neurotransmitter that connects you from your brain to your muscles. It's the only one that does.
Really?
Yeah. And then, let's see, you'd have oxytocin in there probably, because it's sort of real deep feeling connected. I mean, it's sort of love potion number 9.
When we feel love, we create that chemical, right?
Well, when you're wanting to kiss the cops and everything, which you do all the time, what and talk to squirrels, how did that happen? I don't know.
It happens.
But it's because love potion number 9. What he just had a smell fragrance in that or something?
I guess. But here's the deal, right? We're talking about honesty versus dishonesty. And of course, you want to have an honest reputation. However, sometimes it's helpful to be dishonest.
Oh, well, in most circumstances, of course, it doesn't, because, but they could imagine, of course, the circumstance where you have to go outside prefix set patterns of response to have survived. Mm-hmm. So you'd imagine that a whistleblower, for instance, who's participating in protected disclosure or conduct. Okay,
whistleblowers are very honest.
What the reason is behind their disclosure, that's just their words and things, right? But then also to their conduct, you see. So somebody could have gone on strike or done something because they could feel that's really not a lawful order to follow whatsoever, you see. Okay. Because, for instance, wouldn't there be, like, if you were anywhere, but like some limitations on the discretion that you could take? Because, I mean, we're not talking about things but more important, but it could be like some interest really is at stake, sort of thing, right? Like usually, property.
Yeah, usually something.
I mean, so your property is your proper cup of tea, is sort of your ability, a bill of tea, is to, have admiralty. It's admirable. That's a bit of tea. It's a nice tea to have.
I want to get into teas.
Yeah. Well, love really is the joining of dichotomy, you see, where that is, and it's sort of being good at that.
Okay.
So what most people might not be too good at, being really good at managing disagreement.
So they agree.
Well, love doesn't fit into that one because it's just like there's no issue. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I totally agree with what you just said.
But, well, where an issue is, that could be not so good because then there's sort of some sort of boundary. And it's sort of a bound, it's blocking and stopping, it's holding the dory back.
Okay.
So we can't get across the ocean where we are, or the current sea, you see. So current sea is like water. It functions as water. and you can't speculate in that. That's what we all have that's common. You see, like water, like how can you buy fresh water? How can you buy fresh air?
Well, that explains why so many people are thirsty for currency. Like
well,
that. See how I did that?
Yes, but then like perfect detachment is not doing anything except focusing on what the ethic is afterward and what it is that you could have as some response, so that you've been able to survive yourself where things are.
And that's our goal, perfect detachment.
So, like in relation, for instance, honesty, where couples survive, you've got partners who are really good at something and they give what they're good at to their partner to do, give them a chance to do things, sort of thing. Okay. And that kind of really shows like patterns of a good relation. But
honesty, maybe?
Well, partnering, honesty is really like truth, which is something which is mutually beneficial.
That is the definition of truth.
Something which is real is being honest. I mean, I guess, yeah.
I think it's important,
honest.
Right?
Is just like, well, what are you protecting or caring about? Because there could be a reason why you had to sneak up on a crowd, for instance, or the flock.
See, we're not sneaking up; we're being honest.
Yes, but if you're a whistleblower and you've seen things, you don't think that the conduct of people could be changed. Like, so for instance, if you had a test and you just tested everybody, well, you thought that, okay, good, but it's not really because it's very state specific, isn't it? Because, like, for instance, who's there sitting just normal you made a test for and you just asked them the question, will you tell a lie, for instance? And so it's just yes or no. That's all the answers are.
Yes.
That's it.
I'm going to say yes. If it's to save someone's
you
feelings.
would say, and we all would say yes, but what if you were a whistleblower?
Would I tell a lie?
No, it's just saying, it's a question just in the survey, just like they're just finding out your personality.
You can't tell a lie if you're a whistleblower.
Well, you might have the issue that relates to this because that's the context. The context is whether you're saying the truth or not, and you have a survey there and it's just saying, do you tell lies or not, yes or no? So everybody's going to say, if normal circumstances, they would really want to make sure that they are putting things in terms that saves themselves, because you're not going to put your hand up and say you're a US citizen if there was a terrorist on the plane.
No, you're not.
Because you don't volunteer that because that's not going to help
Start
you.
talking Spanish.
But, well, a lot of things that someone says is a name, and so we get something from that, and it's a bit funny. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how your conduct is going to be something. It's quite pretty big anyway. But like what we just said was where someone is in a good partnerness in their relation, they're more both could be matching each other because they both have sort of life story versus somebody has a love story, but somebody has a love story, and it does not match at all. You see? Yes.
Yes.
But honesty really is your bond, like your word, shouldn't it be?
It should, yes.
Yeah, so if somebody says they're going to do something, they do that as they can.
But when they say gonna, that means they're not doing it.
My sense of that always, and if you go and ask your neighbour, I don't know that they would disagree with you.
Okay.
Only that we would expect like faith and honour and trust.
Sure.
And so, we're just sticking with faith and honour and trust because, like, if you don't have that, it's like, oh, well, somebody feels the world is basically bad. But it shouldn't be necessary that somebody couldn't just be able to put things as they're supposed to be.
I actually think the world is basically good. I really do.
Well, if you're in a system that's profiled you not to be a man or a woman because you can't find that in a document.
I hope not.
A bit like, well, why wouldn't you? Because that's your title.
My title varies.
Well, where something is in contract, title means what?
It means your name.
Well, that's something that you own, yes. What else?
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah, so if you've got the title, it means that you're the owner.
Oh, I see.
of something.
Okay.
It means that you have some exclusive ownership,
All right.
doesn't it?
I guess.
Yes, it does. It actually means that you're a tool of a tie. That's the reason why we couldn't licentiously give someone some form of nobility.
All right.
Because if you did that, then some control has existed there. Someone's below a man. Well, that could be, but, some function maybe. But it's certainly, that's not as powerful as a man being honest. But that if you were dishonest, you're taking advantage of something because you and I, we could not know that the son of a per, for instance, doesn't mean that relates to a man. Yeah.
Son of a per.
Or daughter of a per son, per daughter.
Per son, per daughter. That's interesting. But, the reason we're talking about honesty versus dishonesty, it's important when it comes to a lot of things in life. And one thing I'd like to point out, when you live an honest life, it's a lot less stressful. It really is. Because if you're lying all the time, then you got to keep track of this and keep track of that, just so you can keep your information straight. And it's stressful.
Yes, it is. So we put a lot of these black frock, white wig ones into stress, and they put us into stress. But the system sort of has put them into stress because they have to collect something, and they'd prefer to collect something that was abandoned.
And you know what?
Because they can make the most money from that.
Guess what? I'm gonna stop lying. That's what I'm gonna do.
Somebody say, I'm going to not have live food.
Ooh, that's another good one.
Well, no, that's about live food. Somebody says, I'm not going to be having a lot of fun with this idea over the days ahead.
Okay.
That's a better command for that.
Yeah, it ain't gonna happen overnight.
So if somebody said, stay on this side of the road and play, right, that's the better command. Or somebody said, don't run across the road right now because you could get hit.
Yeah.
So up to a certain point, you and I, we don't have a representation until like maybe age of 6 or something, where suddenly we could realise, don't means kind of that you're not something. But before the point of it, we can hear as children well and truly what their better command is. Whereas once we become adults, you can't really hear that anymore. It sort of like modifies it apparently. The words you say like don't, then modifies it. So, but you could hear it if I said like, don't continue to be really playful as you've been. Right. So it's an embedded command. So it's better to let go negative words until you can frame things positively, and now you can put negative words in because now you can know how to use these words. But like partnering anyway, I mean, it's just something.
Optimistic people live longer.
But what about decor, of course? Rapport is a good one, isn't it?
Yes, it's important. With
people. Well, even the subject, you've got to pace things. And because if you don't pace things, what happens there?
Things get turned off.
Yeah, so if love's in a bottle...
it gets turned off.
No, because you just had a small sniff and you got oxytocin, you got acetylcholine. And what happens when you put your shoulders back or your arch in your back, or you decide to empty yourself of all dialogue, for instance, which one should be, which is I aware, that's a great one to move toward. But if honesty is a woman or a man's bond, and we always hear this spoken, yes, heard, it's witnessed, it's verified, and who as a claim really is bonded is for sure, they're sure. Right. They have surety about what they're doing, don't they?
Yes. It's called love.
But if you're only chattel, like you tried to put somebody as a piece of furniture, inside your book, and you only give them a number, right? Yeah. And they're just an artificial entity in your system, right? Because you're the man above that. Okay. Yes? And, you live somewhere and you own that. That's absolute. That's not like, no, that doesn't exist. That's a fact.
That's a fact, Jack.
Yeah, well, okay. So, but if it's an artificial entity that somebody owns, right?
Okay.
can the artificial entity, for instance, it's an entity. It's big. It's like masquerading as if it's got a central organized nervous system, which it doesn't have.
Oh, well, it's not living.
I know. So there's a lot of words that we have and things that's like that, which is sort of called nominalizations, which is just really are the same. They're entities masquerading as some entity within you, right?
Yeah.
But so if somebody just let go of their inner dialogue, probably they'd be better off, but because you'd have a lot more rapport with people, right?
I see.
So it's a lot of things that you might not say, you don't say because, well, it's not going to create proper friendly relation per se, yes?
That's right.
Yeah, so there's a lot of boundaries that you have actually that work good. And then others, they really don't have those boundaries per se, or they'll bridge and break personal boundaries and things like if a criminal doesn't have any decor or honesty really, they're going to just wait in a system and only bond something later on, and they can't bond their claim up the front because why? Well, because there's no surety there. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so where a criminal is, they're not going to bond too much of anything. Their word isn't any bond. And that, would it be that if you're customer profiled in any form, or it would be just that you're going to be profiled over onto the left side of the court, and so you're in a circumstance where somebody's a fiction, and they've got their fiction there, and you've entered into their fiction, and somehow they contacted with your fiction, which that only is the way it could be because like only could be joined with like. And so the fiction, as the fiction is on the left side of the court, this is for only somebody that could have perhaps an injury at the most, but you could never be harmed. Why? Because you can't be harmed. If you're a fiction, you can't be harmed. Something could be injured maybe or something, but the only closest thing that they could do for you in that court might be to say, oh, you got a personal injury. I mean, now that might be the highest thing you could do, but it actually is harm, okay, so not more than that.
Wow.
But if harm isn't allowed to appear, or if man isn't allowed to appear, or if woman isn't appearing, and it's a son of a purr, I mean, I don't care too much that the code was given to the French to do, and then, and then it was brought back here, and now that's what's done. So, for instance, children, which is your property, it's your proper cup of tea, and it's their proper cup of tea to have a feeling to lift their arm and lift, and yours, your arm you lift yourself.
Okay.
And everyone, and that's your feelings, and this is your property, see, and it's the property of the child to have her father or his father and mother, and so that's property, you see. Mm-hmm. So if it's all of a sudden you only talk about it as children, and they don't have a list of subject matter that relates to what that is, you've just said something which really sort of in your mind relates to the property that you do have. But they could say that, oh, well, how could you dare say that's your proper cup of tea? It's like, excuse me, that's a bit ridiculous. So is it because of education where someone is? Because if you understand things more, it's probable that you're going to have a lot more emotional IQ.
I would think so.
So is it a strategy that you think if somebody knew a lot more variables, would you, like my dad always knew who was going to win something, and he always would, yeah. And then one day I asked him, how did he know this? Like, he told me, hey, listen, you know what? I'm always looking to see who has understanding of the most variables where a picture is.
Really?
Yeah, and he goes, whoever has this is going to definitely win.
Wow.
That's a strategy. Also, he said, you know what? He said, if you're in the field, you're going to win. If you're not in the field, how the hell can you win? You're on the other side of the mountain. What, are you going to know what's going on? No, you can't.
Well, tell that to Trump.
Well, you can't be Chicken Little, but that is, some and another matter. But it's really something going on there where no matter was of any accusation, which is of any claim, which could have any truth proper or any honesty, which where words are somebody's bond, though, you see, that's very different. But if you're only appearing as a ward and everyone else is there too, a lot of fiction could be just jumped into and people could give their whole life to argument instead. you see. But there's something there which is on hold, and that's a bond, and that's yours, and that's the bid, your bid bond, and that's the only place in the court which you could have a word which is grantor, you see, because you're the grantor. And so for someone that had knowledge and they read and they looked and they saw, they could find what the remedy is, but why shouldn't it be that actually that's given to you? That's what I'm asking at the courthouse, if you're talking about honesty and Trump or anybody.
Yeah, the courthouse.
Well, I'm just saying if you're on the left side of the court, a bond has existed, I just said, and if it's dishonest, which it is often, but there could be other reasons why somebody just leave it to the end, but it's not right, because why one side is not sure as a party and the other side really is. You see,
the left side of the court is the complainant?
Because a claim, which is the right side of the court, is you, the living being, and if you're only showing up as a drive whore, which is your ID, or as some occupation, which is your ID, you're only under some contract, because you've just said that your occupation is that's your ID, you see. So, well, you might have a right to contract with someone or not, but it really is you, a man or as a woman, you have the maximal amount.
Well, when you say left side of the court, right side of the court, is that through the judge's point of view?
No, that's from our view, which is we set this up because the maximal capacity should be for you to be able to have defended yourself or put something forward as a claim. And if that's followed, then the procedures are good. But then if a procedure is not good for this, that's not right. Well, for instance, like, what if a procedure didn't care too much for retaliation?
Well, I would hope that it
Well, what if the procedure didn't care too much for, contextual types of things which pull you away from what the issue is and pull you into other subject or whatever.
Oh, now we're getting into the mainstream media.
So if you went into the public courtroom, you would have the venue from the land, because that's you, the living being, isn't it?
Yes, I would hope so.
Well, venue in front of jurisdiction?
Of course not.
Well, in a way, but no, because jurisdiction means you must have standing, and the only way that you could have standing is if you were harmed or injured or costed or damaged. Your person. Yes?
Well, the harm doesn't have to be physical.
Yeah, but you see, if somebody's there and they're actually under oath to you, could there be misnomers going on, and could there be actual incorrectness in the way something is put? Well, things that's like that isn't too contractual, certainly not. A JC Quanta is in the contract. Yeah, a real true name is in the contract, you see. From, as a verb, can't be just left out. You see, it has to be, you know who this is from, and those things can't be tricked. You can't be just inside someone else's corpse, because if your identification was inside someone else's corporation, you could only be of, couldn't you? Right? Yes. Because you're a fiction inside someone else's corpse. That has to be a fiction, so you can only use verbs like of or at or in. Yes? Of course you can, that's all. You can't say from, no. Because you could say if you're from the earth, or you're from the land, or you're from your mother, you see. You're from your father.
I'm from the body.
Well, if you said you're from the body, you're really true too, because it's sort of really more like you're in your omnipresent self, which is more the way out where anyone is.
That's where we all should be, right?
So a bid bond inadvertently could have been forgotten. That's all where the courthouse is to be filled out by saying why. Well, because it's a wanting you to kind of not know this and abandon the claim, because it's going to maximally draw the maximal amount of money, because someone else is going to sign your name behind the scene and by accommodation, and you didn't know that, you see. So these are things which isn't clear. Clarity should be where a partnership is in relation.
So honesty is clarity, and honesty, so we know it's important in the courts, but is it important in everyday life, with your coworkers, with the people on the bus as you're going to work, with the restaurant personnel? Is it necessary to be honest?
Well, you're just talking about being a good captain of a ship and a vessel where you are, and responsibleness where we are. And something could be made simple, so you're not having to lick stamps for Nazis, like National Alliance of Zionism.
I don't know one person that would do that.
But manoeuvring your ship, which really is a vessel more, you're manoeuvring safely and with safety and then some sort of compliance exists. But if smart contract did this for you, decentralization is in .arm, which is a server which we all own, then that's a public trust, and something is time-stamped, and it's in a blockchain of some 99 around you, and so those are things which then get stored in the ether forever, and it's in a virtual time frame, and so it's instant, you see. So why shouldn't you just be able to have cash that's instant? That should not cost you anything because you own the system.
And you know what? Cash
all the people should own the system, because if you have a $100 bill and that's used 1,000 times transferred, and it costs nothing to be transferred, and suddenly you have $100 on a credit card, but after the transfer fees and after all the fees are got, $20 was taken out, and so you only had $80. Really
stick with
and
cash.
Then it keeps going down and down and down.
That's right.
Would it be honest if nothing contagious exists, which is true, but it would be dishonest for me to say, oh well, money is dirty, certain, and so no, don't touch that, and we'll get rid of it. And so you got rid of it from a lot of people because they're complying. But what the compliance is to something which is an absolute lie, you see, because it's got an ulterior motive going on, and that's not right, see, because conflicted interest is. So honesty would be what? Where neutral ground is.
Honesty is where neutral ground is. Well, and honesty is, honesty, I said it earlier, it is clarity.
Playfulness.
Clarity. Okay, also, I wanted to get into dishonesty because I think it's important. Like, say, here's a good example where dishonesty is okay. And that's where, say you have kids, right? And you don't like them. You can't stand them. And they say, hey, Daddy, I love you, I love you. Well, you're not going to say, well, I don't love you. No, to avoid the situation, it's be helpful. You're going to say, I love you too, right? So you're going to be dishonest just to avoid a bunch of drama, right?
Oh, well.
So it's good to use
until the moment that someone can understand that the behavior, as you're pointing out, right, is not the identity. That's one thing.
Yes.
So first there's decor, which is going on, and so words could match the decor, and as it does, now something fits more. But when our words inside don't match what's outside, it's sort of really a little bit whatever. But if it is, then what you have is identity first, someone's identity, where you're getting along with someone. You know that you're able to care about their identity being pristine, and you know that prejudice could exist about that because most people could be trained that their identity isn't like stellar as the universe and empty, but that it actually is more got things in there which is egotistical, and that's my identity. So let's just say that where you mention a behaviour and I'm the child listening, and I've grown up in a world which my identity is pristine, but so now you could talk about behaviour because I can talk about the behaviour as well, and I know that you're already mentioning, or that something relates to some behaviour, whether that fits in or not. So, because children could be domestic terrorists if they're the most flexible, right? Because they could chuck a burko somewhere where you're not going to be doing that, but you've got to be able to be more flexible yourself. But like, if in the issue of this, there's something temporary, like you're pointing out, and something permanent, and so we don't want to mix those two up. So first, it's permanent that their identity is pristine, and behaviours is like that. It's just sort of something very temporary in the moment. But if you just put things in that way, then that's going to be a lot better off. It's sort of honesty, see. Whereas, but we're all doing what we can to be honest, and then I think that when anyone is there, they have given something, but it's positive, adaptive. The first time they have the behaviour, but we do a lot of things automatic, and so a trauma reenactment syndrome could be there.
Well, and I have a question about this, because if you don't like your kid, right, per se. Is it your fault? Is it the kid's fault? Or is it the mom's fault? Whose fault is it? And by asking that, is this person being honest with themselves?
Oh, well, we just started our program by saying that who really has a lot more wordedness, where some think is going to have a handle on things like you're pointing out. So things we cannot have a handle on, we're doing what we can with our heart. So the very thing first is that where a parent is alienated from the child, that's called child alienation.
Really?
Yeah, and society and all kinds of things can have caused, as you point out, a parent doesn't get too much for the child's behaviour, or they can't identify too much with it. Because why? Well, because no familiarity is. So the injury only is a familiarity, like you point out, and it's truly disastrous. And matter of fact, it's criminal because it's not being considered, and that is criminal, where someone, as another man or woman, said, that they owned your property, and they took your property, and they could have even put an ad in the paper, all sorts of things, and they, probated your property. And to do that, they had an infant decedent connect with another infant decedent, had hearsay amongst themselves, passed that off. Look, these documents are all supposed to have a three-party sort of signature, and this involves a security that goes on for a long while. This is contraband at the courthouse. You see, this is a claim that's existed, which is an adverse counterclaim. And so, because you're sitting there, whether you knew it or not, you are the secured party creditor in a circumstance that relates to securities that have gone behind the scene being used. And if you didn't know that, there's 100 trillion that just passes through the TDC and things like this daily. And you know what? That's the rip-off, but you don't know the money mechanics behind the scene. How bad is that? But, well, you don't have to. You could just say, look, you know what? I'm the principal of the matter, for sure, and you can know that.
That's
and couldn't somebody actually help organise things such like this? Because is it just that if you don't know this, your property coming up could just be lost, and the equity you have in it because of a pocket judgment?
Absolutely.
So honesty really is like a big topic, isn't it? Because you're looking at actually what truth is more, and this is which is mutually beneficial, but it's really to do more with what's fact and not some transient perception.
Well, I wish the news would deal with what's fact and not some transient.
Well, what the reason is why? What's the benefit if we don't have a monopoly?
What's the benefit if we don't have a monopoly?
Yeah, like in conversation, for instance, like a partner, it's sort of not too good, isn't it?
You have the more, input.
You have dialogue, right?
Dialogue.
Yes. So conversedness and dialogue. What if somebody said they only had argument, but they're really actually in dialogue, but they called it argument?
I don't know.
Oh, well, it could be, because it could be some polarization going on. But there are better words to be able to describe what goes on where something is. But negotiation might be better in that you had an offer, and I'm just wondering if that's a good one or not. You see? So isn't it actual that that's the case?
Maybe.
It is. But let's see. Child alienation is where this society is set up to cause a lack of familiarity, and suddenly that's disappeared. And so, and for sure, it's often done to the child, because whoever is there, that you that have been separated from them become the X.
That's right.
Sort of thing in the mind around the child, which is the parents and people there. And if it's a captive slave, like as someone that
you are
kidnapped in their life,
you are setting up.
There could be all kinds of things. But you see, now there's also parental
you're setting up
alienation as well.
About most parents love their kids, but something happens in the kid's life where as soon as they hit that, all of a sudden their parents start not liking them. And you know what that is? It's called college. Thank you very much.
Well, I wonder that there's a whole range of things which is the public fool of your own self where things are. That's true, because like, what the cost is to have a little knowledge is nothing in relation to the mistake that could be made by not being educated, as you point out.
Well, and isn't it funny also
But
how college...
I don't see that whether somebody's educated or not, like Pol Pot just wiped out all the educated people. So we could,
you want to go to Pol Pot?
well, how educated you were or how intelligent you were didn't necessarily save you where you were.
I wanted to
Pol
just
Pot
point
was.
out that college rhymes with knowledge. Continue.
Yes. Knowledge. You know.
Is that how you say it?
Well, when people said for king, you know, or they said for country,
King
you know,
and country knowledge.
well, apparently that started to become a swear word because you couldn't say for king, you see, in English, or you couldn't say for country, you see. So it was blasphemous because you had to swear your allegiance to the Pope.
And some people still do.
Well, isn't it true that Pope Boney back then put a dome over the earth, and then if you found raking leaves up somewhere, you have to pay rent to Pope Boney?
I think it's brilliant, and I want to inherit it. I want to build something around the planet. I want to buy the planet. It's going to take a little money, a little bit. Maybe I'll need a loan. I want to buy the planet and start charging for air, right? And bypass all this other legislation stuff, right? Not come up with some climate tax.
Look,
or
I think that actually
BS.
People could be having
it.
exactly. It's a trauma reenactment syndrome, right?
I guess. But here's the thing.
No,
we're talking
what,
about honesty, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to dishonestly get us to pay for a tax.
No, but could you say, though, that a lot of things are fluffy, nothing behind it, and we give ourselves a lot to things like this. But many things is a trauma reenactment syndrome, like you pointed out, like when you could hear those things, but that's what's going on, isn't it? When like you get Lahained or something.
Sure.
Or Gazand. Or,
Maybe.
you know, what about thalidomide?
Oh, man. For the audience.
Oh, well, what about intubated on the machine?
What's preliminary?
It's a preliminary sort of a thing that if in case you get something, you'll have this, and that really caused a lot of damage. It like caused children to be born with limbs just coming out of their shoulder or something and things like this.
Those, yeah.
And then, but what about, you see, like I personally feel it's not right for one man to say he's going to own the air, because how can you buy fresh air? How can you own fresh water? You can't.
You can own fresh water.
We all should. That's ours. Like I'm just saying currency, the same thing. Don't speculate in currency. Why? Because it's the arm. And should that not be where things are, you see? It should be not speculated in, because it should be stable. It should have its value of itself rather than losing value. You see, so if a value is honest, it has its value in perpetuity, right? So if its value is honest, then it has some intrinsic value as well. And straight away we can know if wherever good decisions are made, typical, like what you were pointing out then, is that we make the best decisions, as you point out, where consensus building is. So something could be only done proper with ourselves where that is. And so the Supreme Court in the state was only able to have an opinion because it's a fiction with a fiction. But if it were with the people, and it was 26 people from the land, now that's very different, you see. That has to be carried out because that's coming from living beings, you see, versus something that came from a fiction and only would be just exhausted as a fiction, you see. But is it right that you always have somebody in military intel, right? And they're the ones that's put in charge as a governor general at the courthouse, and there's typically someone in charge there, and they actually will cause anything that you did to actually be sullied, like a claim that you made. It could be just turned into a complaint, and you lost your money. And there's no advertising. There's not wrong advertising. It's like you went to purchase something, but you weren't allowed, for instance, to actually put something correct. Why? Well, because a system existed that doesn't necessarily allow us to actually have honesty where it is. Yeah. So that's some of the things which is going on, of course, because maybe it's not right that she marries up and you marry down, for instance.
Well, that's something I have to consider every day of my life.
Well,
but here's the deal. We're gonna take a break. We're gonna be back before you even know it. But also, you mentioned a perpetuity, right?
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. When I heard perpetuity, timeshares. You know what they do? They do those contracts in perpetuity. Be careful. Be careful with those timeshares. Then they say, your kids are making those payments every year, whatever. Anyways, we're going to break. We'll be right back before you even know it. All right, everybody, we're back. See, back before you even knew it. And Dr. David Jubb, sir, I have a question for you. Is there a way to tell a normal person to tell if somebody is not being honest?
Everything that we do, like you're pointing out, is to have some comparison, because you're asking about honesty, and any word like which you could use, it sort of has a base, so it must be sort of defined in some way. So a base for looking at truth telling, where somebody's into forensics, then you're going to look at a basic truth telling structure. And so a truth teller sort of really just tell you something, and it's got a base pretty much, and a percentage of things relates to the incident itself that came aboard, what that was, and that was like, somebody did you wrong, they took property away or something. And truth-telling will always be general, that pretty much everybody will be just letting you know what happened beforehand, and then what happened that was the wrongdoing, and then they always will pretty much actually be giving you a small percentage of things which relates to what happened afterward as well. So pretty much it is just general that most people telling you the truth, they really have given you a percentage of things which is a normal relative percentage base, you see. Whereas where somebody's not telling you the truth, they have redacted bits and pieces of this.
And to redact is criminal.
Well, it's typical that what the pieces that they redact is the very things which is before or after, see, because before or after a crime is connected to the crime. And so it's an interesting thing that, these are the bits that will be redacted, typical, you see. And so it's kind of a bit dishonest, of course, we would say, where someone doesn't have proper consent, let's say, but it's a bit of a paradigm shift that you could even look at body language and things, and conduct and things, but you could look at language per se, but you could look at what the subject matter was that someone chose, and what would be a reason behind what that is. Where criminals are, they're wanting to distract first, right? Or to be aloof about what something is, so they'll want to dissociate away from a subject, for instance.
Like, I was just hanging out, minding my own business, and wham, I got hit on the head.
Well, straight away, something is going on that can be not necessarily to do with what happened just beforehand, you see? Yeah. So it always is.
I was putting on my clown makeup to go to work.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if something is beforehand, then we can sort of like get a bit of an idea more about things. Okay. Perhaps, but maybe not. You see, today the word clown could truly be not like you would think it is as the Joker, but sort of something, and also the Joker too, all being sullied as something which you don't want to listen to, because that's the bad motive. But that's not so really, because in fact it is that where amusement is typical that it's a way for us to be able to receive the truth.
And they can try and confuse you. They can mislead you, like say, well, I was shaving my legs, pause, because I'm a professional cyclist. See, you were confused until I finished the statement. You thought, why is he shaving his legs? Huh? Why? Oh, because he's a professional cyclist.
Oh,
See how I confused you with that one sentence?
Yes, I know, because it's typical that maybe men don't like to shave those parts or something per se.
Unless you're a cyclist.
You might want to. There's things like
clean it up.
You had a menstrual cycle or something. No, I just think that actually, like where people getting married, that might be not the moment when you're bringing up dolphins getting caught in nets.
No.
It could be going on and you just read that or something, but what's appropriate where something is in fact actual truth is but what if somebody always is just about what's not just fictional, and they spend their life where just something is actual fictional, but it's got no structure. Well, it's just called a word salad, and sort of most people could be living in a bit of a word salad.
Our listeners are very familiar.
This is honesty, honesty, because we can just look to see, where somebody is credible, or it's just losing a bit of credibility because, like they'll say, lizards mated together or something, and they got a story from lizards or something, and so suddenly, you could have a lot of credible fact, but you've discredited yourself because suddenly you've just said a lot of stuff which is totally not scientific at all. It's like shows that you've got a loose as a goose mind.
I discredit myself all the
time. In the golden age, of course, you don't have a trespass going on, which is what everybody does have, because misnomers going on, isn't it? And forgery, because a lot of paperwork and all sorts of things was entered in, and nobody could ever say that that's not the case where anything is, because, but you're reading once and for all time the criminal conversion of title, and this is in the golden age because man, woman is in the contract. You see, yes, okay. because it's written for you as a man or as a woman, and this is smart contract, and so you've to have language which is direct. You've got to have is, and you have to have a real true name, and things like this. You see, because it's verified, and so after this point, can a fiction be posing as a bot?
Sure, all the time. Anytime.
Well, it could be a lot more difficult, but it's like not as easy as what it is to be as a bot today, relative. Okay?
It's going to get really easy.
It's going to be just not impossible, but it's just really that you've got ways which really, and what would be the reason for anybody to do that? Because they're going to get compensated in a new age, because currency is positively inducted, not negatively inducted.
I hope so.
Well, if you're getting compensated, what would be the reason why for you to be bribed?
Politicians say I'm working in a position.
A ticker that's a poly could only have had to have a mission, and the mission has to be actually something which would be about the basic good to have got funded. So how did you come to get to be where that is? You see? Yeah, well, I'd say that conflicted interest where something is needs to be cleared away, because there's the evils of a monopoly.
Well, that's the best way to do it. But let me tell you something. Get rid of
the monopoly.
They love the conflict interest, and why? Because I can handle it. Conflict interest, no problem. I can handle it.
Well, where conflict is, we could have grassroots goodness about it, because you could slowly see that some positive adaptive reason is for something, and though that's where conflict could be there, it could be risen because you're valuing where that conflicted part is, and you're growing it up, you're maturing it up by educating, by doing things, and you're bringing it up to a proper value, where a higher value relative, and where interrelatedness is again, because typical it is where something went on there, where egotistical was in some way. There was a loss of interrelatedness as well. It wasn't there. Something monopolized the airways within one's own self. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
What do you think about, with most people, like women, it's said, and men have a certain amount of dialogue every day?
Their inner dialogue?
Yeah.
No, some people it's a lot more than others. And I think the people with less inner dialogue are a lot happier.
Yeah. Would you think they could be serving truth better?
Absolutely.
just automatically.
Because if you're trying to be dishonest in any way, you're going to have a lot more dialogue going on in your head, you know?
Could it be criminal that you're doing that because you have a lot of dialogue?
Figure things out.
Oh, well, luminism is that you've got to break the rules sort of thing to get into the club.
Well, you know, I think when the government forces you to have inner dialogue because it's going to create more problems for you and more stress, I think that's criminal too.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of groupthink that jumps around something to sort of cause someone to become conditioned, and that conditioning could be more about a positive good, as you point out, or could have been not really.
Yeah.
But those are things which we looked at it. But in a golden age, we would move into, you'd be selecting a republic at peace, you see, because that you'd have it easy to do such, and everybody does that around the earth.
Good.
And so because you were a republic at peace, it means you're what?
Honest.
Republicing the debt.
Ooh.
Well, that would be honest, wouldn't it? Because if you keep something going as a system where somebody else is your creditor of a nation,
Creditor.
yeah, well, it's just really that can be not so quite right, because you and I, we should manage where something goes, and shouldn't we be the ones that actually decide what the asset is that money's raised for?
Some are the ones.
Well, don't you think
The
that
smart ones.
Yeah, well, you see, this causes you to feel you want to invest in something, and your time and energy, doesn't it?
do.
Yes. Well, that's the greatest resource. The greatest resource is the living resource, actually, not some dead resource.
Well, and I am going to invest in some things. I'm not going to share that with the public until after I invest, because that way I'll be in position to where I do share it with y'all. Hopefully it'll drive the price up.
I think that lots of people love the show because no advertising is, and honesty is, like you point out, and you're not selling anything per se, because it means you're doing something for some other value, and it's sort of really not, let's see, like what you're pointing out. That's about being mindful. What you're talking about. Mindfulness. No, you just jumped into the topic of mindfulness. Well, no, that's a good topic.
That's another show.
No, it's actually.
Is it an out show? Is it now?
It's love in a bottle.
Oh,
it's
honesty,
actually
folks.
partnership. You're being good in your partnering. Do you think if you're kinesthetic and your partner is sort of auditory, but
you're gonna say
your partner is like him, for instance. So let's just say that he is kinesthetic and visual, very much. Oh man, like
it's a lot of men, definitely.
Okay, and that she is very kinesthetic, auditory.
It's a lot of women.
Okay, and then because the mismatch is because he just feels that things look right because he's got a, maybe got a good look, right, and things are okay.
Okay.
Yes. But you haven't said something which she might want you to have said.
That's right.
And now she could be upset because you didn't say something. What if she comes in?
Who knows why she could be upset? Who knows?
Mindfulness would be like you're doing
anything.
Something for the sake of itself. Yes.
Sure.
Okay. Oh, that's good.
Yes. Come on.
Well, when you come into and somebody like your wife, she might have said, "Do you notice anything?"
And you'll say no, and she'll say, "When are you gonna take a shower? How long has it been?"
It could be because he is listening and notices that the fridge is making a bit of a funny noise because he's listening and says, "Yeah, no, that's right. I can hear the fridge. It's making a bit of a funny noise." But she says, "No, look, I've just got a new hairdo,
Then it's the stove. Then it's the dishwasher. Never is.
How loose more you are to be able to notice, or actually sharp, how somebody else processes information. You're going to have a little bit better rapport where somebody is, because you're going to be pacing things a little bit better, pacing and leading. But when things are abrupt, we don't like that. But these things that you're talking about, which are really good, they're called in neurology, they're called selective restrictive violations. Do you know why it's called that?
Yes, because we feel violated nowadays.
No, because it's actually general that you don't do this.
People feel violated over any little thing.
But they could have a selective restrictive violation. It's sort of when anybody ever said something and it's actually a cause and effect violation in our thinking or our decor. Yeah? And but then it causes a brain freeze two waves
Yeah.
pass through you, yes, and it can chop up anything that you had in your own brain, right? So that's a part of a reason why people could be afraid of public speaking, because suddenly they go, my inner dialogue took over from what I was saying, and it's like, wow, what's going to happen now? It's like somebody sort of lost the plot, they lost their thought. You see?
Yeah.
So it's often people better not to do the eulogy. They want to be more in the coffin. They feel a bit more safer there or something.
You got to stay away from eulogies. It's just like
it's at the wake.
It's like the best man.
And it's where people wake.
Don't want to be a part of it.
And they are woken in a moment to be at the wake and awake.
Why do they call it awake when you're asleep?
Well, because when you wake up, it's sort of, you come to have awareness, or maybe you do, you've got it right there now, and it's never turned on or off.
I am, and I care.
But then something takes 5 minutes and slowly creeps into your mind, and now that's your world.
So write it down, folks. Write it down.
Well, maybe it's not wise. It's just something slowly creeps into your mind. It wasn't there before. It has to be there now or something. And it's like, but the things which remind us, we've got sticky factor, haven't we, for things which work.
That we like.
Yeah. So does it, I was going to ask you, so coming back just full circle to the beginning, like love potion number 9.
Yes.
How come it is that you just, you want to kiss the cops, you're talking to squirrels, and you're just really like, things are really, you can even be sleeping on a set of stairs and you're as comfortable, and you just love it.
You're in love. That's why.
Okay. Well, could somebody be love blind though?
Can love blind?
Yeah.
Oh, are you kidding me?
It's just, so we really sort of are forgiving more.
I think everybody, love is blind, period.
Well, perfect detachment is the most godlike, because, like, as you point out, love is sort of an only thing. Humbleness is an only thing. But these are bestitudes, all of them.
You know what the hardest part about achieving perfect detachment? Huh? Food. Huh?
Well, what is it that actually feeds you, which it does? It's assimilated and it doesn't pass your lips.
Knowledge.
Are you hungry most to be joined with good ideas or a steak?
Well, you know what? By looking at me, you would say steak, but it really is.
I only said that because lots of people are listening and they love certain things.
It's really knowledge. You can't tell by looking at me. But we covered what being dishonest can look like. What does being honest look like? What does that look like? Being honest.
Honesty is really where someone pulls their chin in a little bit, they raise their eyebrows just a tiny bit, and they've got kid rapport with you, because it means that they really care about being open. They are seen to be open, but typically it would be they're not going to push their chin out and look down their nose, because
that's a dishonest person does.
Well, it's called long noser.
Oh, long nose. So if I look down my nose,
it's called a long
with my
noser.
Chin out,
I'm
doing something dishonest.
Yeah, sort of some mixed motives going on where something.
Being honest, you would not do that.
No, because you're not looking up or down, because you're not searching for being judged.
You're not trying to hide,
and you're not judging.
Okay.
So you can keep your eyes level. That would be one thing.
I'm going to have to master that look, because I'm always judging. Just kidding.
Oh, no. Well, you soft your eyes and you keep a soft focus and you look through things. You'll be surprised that this analog itself, like put your shoulders back, put an arch in your back, it causes you to feel pride, right?
Okay.
But what if somebody is in a fetal position?
A fetal?
Well, it means that they're being pulled in.
Well, they're not doing too hot.
Yeah, because they're walking around all pulled in, right?
Yeah.
And can you hear that in the voice?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, you sure can. You and I, we all can hear and feel if something was authentic. And whether it's not really authentic at all. Do you think it's okay for somebody to be given a license?
I think it's important. Is it okay? It's important, because if you're doing something difficult and
like driving,
yes, you need to you need to.
No, driving. Please don't tell me.
You need to demonstrate that you can handle the job.
Wow. Everybody driving has to do that.
Look,
that's
I get
ridiculous.
It. Look, you grew up in Tasmania.
No. Can I ask you something? Would you have to look inside everybody? You looked inside someone you found a heart. So you say no. We have to look inside everybody to get this right.
Okay.
Could lying through the sense be given because something that you have to do is licentious? That's what the word means. It means that you're not supposed to do this.
Licentious. That's a great way to describe a lemon.
Well, what is licentious? It's scrumptious. But it's what licentious is really means that you have been given a title of nobility.
Oh, okay.
And it can't be defended.
Wow.
It can't be defended. A defended ant. It's not something, see?
That's another great idea for a T-shirt.
Yeah, so there's different types of... there's different degrees of son of a purr. Not everybody's the same son of a purr.
I don't know how that's going to fly.
Well, if somebody has an orifice already,
that's definitely not going to fly.
That's the type of son of a purr they have. That's the office they have in the gubernation process.
Okay.
So you're a son of a purr in the gubernation process as an orifice, right? And that's it. I mean, that's a utility company, which I know you're not. And so these are problems. I mean, that's dishonest.
Energy.
Well, somebody's only just being treated as a award of the court, like we're pointing out, like a coat hanger or something. And that you're not allowed to speak.
Right.
Because you can't.
That's the worst part of court.
No, but there's a fiction of it there, and they can't hear.
Because I like to talk, I really do.
No, well, you have to have a central organised nervous system that is someone who has a claim. You can't be talking to someone who's no claimant there.
So if somebody is alive, but they don't have a centralized organ system, how does that happen?
Well, that's the reason why this was written up first. It was written up
to protect them?
Well, to protect imbeciles.
Okay, now you're making it personal.
No, but that's what award means. If you look at it, it means imbecile.
Oh, really?
Well, really? It also means Phyllis Nillis.
Okay.
It means you've got no certain parentage.
That's a T-shirt right there, Phyllis Nillis.
Well, yes. Let's see. Could be an Atlanticus. You know, Atlanticus is someone who's for sure going to break the law because they're breaking the law right now where they are.
You're giving me all kind of T-shirt ideas.
You have 3 strikes.
Is a T-shirt right there.
It's like, well, that looks seems folks, like you're a monkey, but
folks, that's all we got for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. I know I did. Please remember to subscribe. We're going to be at it again. Of course, this conversation is definitely going to come up again. Dr. Jubb, please give us something simple to do to make our life wonderful and better. Just something simple, you know? Like kiss yourself in the mirror or something. I don't know.
Oh, well, I think we could see a strange attractor is a fractal of what this is, isn't it? Yes, and when that fractal is put, it's going to make itself because it is something which is a strange attractor. So a strange attractor is something which modifies or changes things. We cannot know when that could be complete. So that's what makes it a strange attractor. The other thing is that something which is a claim, no matter what, where something is, it's sort of like nature wants to fulfill that. It wants to neutralize, it wants to discharge. A real 0 point is when you're zeroing out the charge. You do that because you can have a part of yourself which could just turn off association between memory when you go to sleep, and you're so good at that, and that's all you need to do when you're asleep.
And what do you want to do when you go to sleep? You want to have perfect attachment.
Well, maybe the mind should be asleep during the day. That's all.
I don't know.
Because awareness you have fully whilst in your wakefulness. And then mostly you would say that 80,000 thoughts a day that she has and 40,000 on average that he has, that's mind reading.
Is that true?
90% of those thoughts of 80,000 for her, 40,000 for him. Estrogen will cause him to have a lot more as well if it's in excess, yes?
Oh, wow.
And so those thoughts, 90% that's neurologically looked at, they all relate to what someone else is thinking. And so the vast majority of thoughts that people have, like it's unbelievable, is what somebody else is thinking. And this is just extreme because who's doing it? They don't know they're mind reading. And now, when they come in to connect with people, you'll hear all kinds of mind reading going on. You see, so they are speaking for someone else and thinking they've got their view. They've caused someone else's view to be jumped in there and not their own view. Okay. So the first thing that you could ask, I think, just to leave everybody with is one thing is first, whose business is this? Yes, is this your own business? That's one thing, because if it's not your own business, so you should drop that. That's one thing. A point being before this might be what the benefit is. If there's no benefit, you could just drop it outright.
Yeah.
So if there's a benefit, you go, oh, well, okay, so you could, whose thought is this? Of course, it's like, could be someone else's thought, not yours. Well, that should be a way. It should be a reason for you to drop that. Then 10% of things are sort of your own thinking, it points out. And that you could think about it, well, is it beneficial? And it's not. And so you drop that. So suddenly you've dropped 99.9% of all thinking, you see? Yes?
That's where you want.
And this is more you and I being
okay,
in my
there you go. Drop your thinking, folks. And I want to drill something into everybody's head. I'm going to say it a lot. And that is positive thinkers live longer, or optimistic people live longer.
Yes.
I think that's wonderful. Take us out, Dr. Jubb.